get it. They're setting it up. We're letting it go. Come on in, those who are just joining. Just getting this technical stuff out of the way. All right. I think I did it. I hope that is correct. We're going to see. Hello. Hi in the chat. Hi, everybody. I know there's more for me to do on here. I'm going to do it now. Hold on. And now it says go down here. All right. Someone else did it. I did. All right. I think I did it right. Now I'm going to do it over here. All right. There's another view. I'm going to hide. There we go. Excellent. All right. Hi, you guys. Hello. Okay, we're here now. It just took me a minute to get it together. I'm so happy you guys are here. Yay. Hi, Dory. It has been a minute, but I'm so happy to see your face in my mind and your name. Hi, Carmi. Hey, everybody. Hi, Christine. We'll be talking to you later. Hey, Claudia. We got Lisa. Hi. You guys, as you're coming in, do me a favor. Say hello. So just so you know where you are, welcome to the Boundary Boss Workbook virtual launch party. I'm so psyched that you guys are here. Hey, Jackie and Callie. All right. Hi, Karen and NYC. So many people. Hello, Serena. How are you? Thank you. You guys, this is what we're here celebrating. And really, what are we celebrating? Boundaries. I have so many exciting, there's so much exciting stuff that we're doing tonight. More than just this, but really it's just tell us where you're coming in from because we're nosy like that. If you have questions, make sure that you are talking to everyone, not just host and panelists. So look, there's a drop-down menu and it should say everyone. Make sure yours says everyone. And if you have questions, put a few question marks in front of it so that we can grab it. Hey, Serena, it's been a minute, but I'm happy to see you. Hello, Andy and Erica. Linda from Queens, how you doing? We got West Hollywood, we got UK, we got Albuquerque, we got BC, we got Georgia. I love that we have all the people from all the places. We got Staten Island in the house. We got Sherry from Hawaii. Enjoy. So anyway, I'm super psyched. Let's have a clean start, shall we? Let's actually get started with our Boundary Boss Workbook virtual launch party. And you guys, I want to start by saying how much I appreciate you. You know I do, but it's really true because literally everything I do for you. That sounds like a martyred or guilting like mom thing to say, but it's not. It's not that you owe me anything. It's just that it's the truth. You are the motivation for all the things that I do. And then I'm super psyched that so many of you are here spending time tonight live with me, honored that you actually want to increase your boundary IQ. Because here's the thing, you guys, and you know this, people love to complain. They don't understand about boundaries. They don't know how to make things better. But then when the time comes, they're like, yeah, I'll do that later. I'll learn something later. You're actually here doing it because this isn't just a celebration. I have 4 super special, super smart guests. 3 out of the 4 of them are licensed psychotherapists. And we're going to be talking about boundaries in all different areas of your life because my commitment to you so much is value. Just give it, just wanting so much for you to live the lives that I know you're capable of living and that you want to live. And hey, for those of you who signed up to get the recording, because hey, maybe where you live, it's 3 a.m. or you're exhausted or you're doing something else or you had other plans, no problem. I'm just as honored that you're spending time with me, even if it's after the fact. I just appreciate you for carving out time for yourself. But really, that it lights me up that all of you are into it because I am super into it, as you know. So what are we doing tonight? Tonight, we're here to celebrate the launch of the workbook. Yes. And to help us do that, I've invited 4 special guests. So up first, it is Vienna Pharaon, who is, I'm going to tell you everyone's bio as we go, because, you know, as much as all of these people are girlfriends and friends of mine, they're also super legit in their own right, all published authors, all big, beautiful brands. So I feel compelled. I want to share with you what they've done. Then after that, we have Christine Gutierrez, who I have a very special story to share about Christine, who is a brilliant psychotherapist, who also is an author. And then we have Dr. Mariel Buque. Same, she has a book that literally just came out. I just interviewed her on my podcast, but we've been friends for a couple of years. And then we'll wrap with one of my nearest and dearest, Danielle LaPorte, which, as many of you know, is a brilliant wordsmith, and she has many books, and we've been friends for, definitely over a decade. So I'll tell you more about each one of these amazing human beings as we go along. But I want to start with a little grounding before we invite our first guest at Vienna to come on in. So I was very excited. So I probably need this grounding more than you do, but I was very excited for our party tonight. Really just an excuse to talk more about boundaries. So if you have something that smells good, I would love it if you would grab it. Carol said, "You are amazing, Terri, and been so inspiring to me. I first saw you on Ann and Heather podcast. Anne Heche. Yeah, Better Together with Ann and Heather. That was so, Carol, that was so moving. I loved Anne and I love Heather. I mean, it's so, what a thing. I didn't know I was literally the last interview that happened with Anne before she transitioned. I did not know that was going to be the case. So let's get into, drop your attention inward. You can put your hands up on your lap. Gently close your eyes. And just breathe. Just breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. And really, this is just a quick check-in with your body. How are you feeling? I don't know what time it is, where you are. I don't know what you've done today, but I really want to inspire you in this little grounding to give yourself the gift of your own presence. So just check in. We're going to do a quick body scan, starting from the top of your head and just moving on down in any part of your body that feels tension. For me, I almost feel it in my brain from thinking so much, because we're writing this book, where I just want to release that tension. So I use the power of my own intention to visualize. I breathe into my brain, and on the exhalation, I feel that tension, that constriction, leaving my body with my breath. And then I'm just going to move down. So I want you to analyze your own body. Where do you need? Is your neck tight? Your shoulders, your traps? Do you feel it in your chest? Do you have anxiety about something? Because this works on feelings as well as physical constrictions. So let's just go from the top of the head all the way down to the tips of the toes. Just releasing anything that is not serving your greatest good. Allowing expansion wherever there is constriction. We're literally replacing the constriction with expansion. We can also do this with our breath, right? Anytime during the day, to just expand your lungs. It's almost like I visualize when I'm breathing deep, that it's almost like I'm moving my ribs over. And I always visualize when I do this, sunshine pouring into my body. It's like this is just a visualization that I do sort of throughout the day, especially if I'm feeling very tight or constricted or small or stressed. There's something about just breathing, and it's almost like I feel like I could create space in my body by doing it this way. That may or may not work for you, but I thought I would share it. So now that you've gone from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, I'm going to ask you to just bring your attention right to your heart chakra. Really, and if you don't know where it is, as my friend David G would say, just put your hand on your heart. And we're going to take 2 deep breaths into this space. Again, clearing anything that might be clogging your heart chakra. Breathing in deeply. And release. Let's do that one more time. Breathing in deeply. And release. And this allows you to come to this celebration tonight with an open heart. And now I'm going to ask you to move your attention right between your eyebrows, your third eye, a little bit up. And we're going to do the same thing because sometimes we have information or rumination or too many thoughts that are blocking our ability to see with clarity, blocking our inner knowing. So let's breathe deeply into your third eye and exhale. Imagining that anything that would be blocking your inner knowing, leaving your body with your exhalation. Let's do that one more time. Breathing in and release. And now this allows you to come to this call with an open mind, which is always a beginner's mind. So let's set an intention for today's experience. I don't know what you need, but I always want the intention for you to be that whatever you learn tonight, you hear something that one of my brilliant guests shares, and that actually teaches you something that helps you lessen your own suffering and elevate your own joy. And let's take one last collective deep breath together. So on a count of 3, we're going to take a deep breath together, and we're going to exhale audibly with a sigh if you can. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. All right. Take a deep breath. All right. We are going to welcome our first guest. I'm so excited. So Vienna, don't undo it yet. I want to move into what, hi, how you doing? All right, let me get to where you is. All right. We're going to get started with our first guest expert. So Vienna Pharaon is licensed marriage and family therapist and one of New York City's most sought after relationship therapists. True story. She's practiced therapy for more than 15 years and is the founder and owner of the group practice, Mindful Marriage and Family Therapy. She received her Master's of Science in Marriage and Family Therapy from Northwestern University and trained extensively at the Family Institute, Betty D. Harris Family and Child Clinic. Pharaon has been featured in The Economist, Vice, Motherly, and has led workshops for Peloton and Netflix, among others. She currently lives in upstate New York with her husband and son. The Origins of You is her first book, fabulous book. You can get her book on our website, and we'll give you that link with the replay, so you don't even have to worry about it. I met Vienna through a mutual friend of ours at an event. And it was like we knew each other through lots of other people for a long time. We had close friends. I was close friends with Mark Groves, and so was she. It was like we were circling. And then we met, and I felt like I had known her all of my life. You know how that is where you're like, have we had a past life together? Like, why is this so easy? Anyway, so I'm super excited that she was available to be here tonight with us. So, V, put on your camera, would you?
Hey,
Hi,
hey,
friend.
hey. Hi, friend.
Wait a minute, you're
How's it
muted.
going?
Wait, I do not hear you.
Okay, hold on.
So you're not muted. Oh, someone else hears, but I don't hear. It could be me. Hold on. It's probably me, you guys. It's always me. Why is it always me? Yeah, you know what? Because my speaker's in the wrong one. I'm sure people could hear you fine.
Okay. Okay, testing. You got me?
I do.
Okay,
Hello,
everybody's got me.
friend.
That's important. Hi, friend. Yeah, I feel the
Hi.
same way. I feel the same way about you. So maybe there is a past lifetime together somewhere.
Something. So let's
Something.
talk about there's so many things that I wanted you to talk about. We only got a couple of minutes though. So let's we asked you your top 3 tips on establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries with your partner, hence because of your expertise and all the things that you do. So let's talk about it. What do you see are the biggest challenges that people have, and what are your top 3 tips?
Okay. First, so a little background. All of my work is around understanding the family system that we grew up on, right? So I want to go back, little swivel head for all of us. I want to go back and I want to explore what it was like for us growing up and to understand our relationship with boundaries based on the boundaries that were there the ones that were absent, how we saw the adults in our family system, use boundaries or not use boundaries, and really make sure that we have a deep understanding of that for ourselves and for our partner. Okay. So that part's really important. If we don't understand our own internal world, obviously tonight we're just talking about boundaries, but this will expand to everything. But if we don't understand our own internal world around boundaries and our partner's internal world around boundaries, we're gonna hit some roadblocks there, because we're not going to understand why we are trying to connect at the expense of ourselves, or why we're trying to protect ourselves at the expense of the relationship. A dear friend of ours, Dr. Ali, talks about boundaries in this way that I love, right? That protection and connection are what are at stake, right? And so when we have porous boundaries, right, we are prioritizing connection over protection. And when we have rigid boundaries, we're prioritizing protection over connection. So we have to understand this part, this internal world, this internal makeup within ourselves and our partner. Okay. Are you gonna chime in on any of this, or are we just going through the list? What feels good for you?
Well, what you're saying is obviously so accurate. And actually, it's funny the way that I Boundary Boot Camp, my signature course around boundaries, which we're launching actually right now, as a part of this, the same way we did when we launched Boundary Boss, the book, because people got super into it and we're like, now I want you to walk me through it. But on purpose, we create this boundary blueprint exercise that does exactly what you're saying, where before we can figure out healthy boundaries with our people, we need to deeply understand, like, how did the paradigm that are my internal boundaries, or that I think the world should be this way about boundaries, how did that come to be for me? And really, so that's basically what you're saying, like, where it's always first stop is this self-understanding, and then moving into other understanding.
That's right. Because otherwise we're going to find ourselves having frustrations with each other if we don't understand the internal makeup. It's not an excuse, right? We always say, like, context is not an excuse, but context is really helpful. It's really important for us to understand it. I also love talking about the concept of lowering walls. I think when we talk about boundaries a lot, it's a focus on setting a boundary, keeping a boundary, placing a boundary. I really love the topic of lifting boundaries. It doesn't get enough airtime, in my opinion. So I'm going to take the opportunity tonight to give it a little bit of airtime, because I think there's something so important about lifting the boundary, right? It's like bringing the wall down, allowing for connection to take place. But in romantic relationships, right, we often will hear this complaint, like, oh, like there is less connection than I want there to be, or the wall seems like it's really high up, or I can't get through to the other person. So instead of lower the wall, why can't you connect more, right? Instead of focusing on that, we want to really understand what the protection is serving, what is attached to connection. So much of this is going to revolve around family of origin, past relationships, ruptures in trust and safety. But I love this inquiry, right? Instead of just, oh, why can't my partner just do X, Y, Z? Right? Lower the wall, be more connective, inquire, respond to me when I ask them questions about how they're feeling or what's going on in their lives, right? It's like, we really want to understand what is attached and associated with connection. And if their history has a story where there is enmeshment, where they were in a role as a child where they had to do more than what was appropriate, they were the caretaker, they were the emotional relief for a parent, right? Like, a lot of times that can get really confused in this space. And so this wall goes up where they don't want to connect, because connection is tied to overwhelm. It's tied to stress. It's tied to being in a savior role. It's tied to something that feels intolerable to them. And so, that part about boundaries feels important. And I think that inquiry in our relationships, like, why will this person not do this? Or why is this person doing this? Whatever it is, whether it's rigidity or whether it's being, I'm loving what everybody's saying here, actually.
Me
right?
too.
It's like tied to being controlled and manipulated, right? It's parentified, enmeshment, caregiver, elders in a family of origin, right? Like this is beautiful reflections. And I think when we start to peel these layers back, the layers back in our with ourselves and in our relationships, we're going to really understand the depth here, right? Because implementing boundaries or lifting boundaries, it's not as simple as just do it. We know that. It's not as simple as that. It's like, it
There would
sounds
not be
nice.
2 books. I would not have written 2 books
Right.
about it if it was just that.
Right. You would have no career. Right?
Seriously.
Like we would be out of jobs, right?
Melissa's and all
Yeah,
the other
I
people writing
know.
about it.
All right. And so it's like we have to come at this from a place of understanding what the blocks are serving. Our behavior makes sense in context. Okay.
Yeah.
Always. We know that.
Yeah.
And we are always in a place of protecting ourselves based on whether we are always trying to connect with everyone and please, and we'll never
Yeah.
say no, and we'll never let somebody down, and we'll never disappoint somebody.
Yeah.
Or if we're always trying to, keep our distance and not get too intimate with people for whatever reason. And we want to really understand, what those choices and behaviors are serving. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm peeling the layers of my family of origin back. I love it.
Yep.
I love it. Yeah. And with that, I guess I'm kind of riffing here. I don't know how many I have said so far, but I do think it's important in a relationship to understand whether we lean towards connection or whether we lean towards protection more. So even if you just like
Yep.
simple tactic, right? Simple tool. Do I lean more towards protection or do I lean more towards protection? Connection, protection. I can't even remember which one I say first each time. You guys know what I mean, right?
Yes.
And so it's like, just identify that in your relationship first. Just know, where do I lean towards more? Do I lean more towards this way in conflict, especially? Right? I love, conflict is such a tricky one. It's so beautiful if we can find these ways through. But if you lean more towards connection, like, ooh, there's a rupture here and I need to stay connected to you because I am so afraid of abandonment, or I'm so afraid of loss, or I'm so afraid of what space means to me, that I'm going to force connection. In conflict, if I lean towards protection, I got to get away. I have to distance myself. I have to disconnect from this in order to restabilize or reground, right? So knowing these things and being able to offer them to our partners and let us know, like, here's what I know about myself. Here's what I know I go towards. Here's why I go to that place. I'm working on this, right? And again, layers and complexity to it, but I'm working on navigating how we move and dance together in this space.
It's so beautiful, and it's so true. And I think that the real keys to what you're saying, V, is that the communication piece, it's not just enough for us to sort of decode, okay, I lean towards connection, and if I'm drawn to someone who leans towards protection, now we're in some kind of a frustrating dance. Now we have to take it one step further, where we're willing to work on our part of it. Hopefully our partner is too. But this really speaks to, how do we come back together, right? How do we deal with, because really what we're talking about boundaries in regular life, but so much of the time it's about, do we come back together? How do we handle conflict, right? Do I feel threatened? Do I run away from conflict with my partner, or do I tell the truth about how I feel? And I think that a lot of it with boundaries has to do with how we handle conflict.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's, part of this is increasing our tolerance level. It's the hard part of this, is that, setting a boundary or lifting a boundary doesn't always feel like a mic drop moment or an empowered moment, where you walk off. I have a story for us, because I think you'll ask me something about when I've had to use my set a boundary, or, be in relationship with boundary in a really meaningful way. But I think what I know about this topic, right, is that when we are disappointing another person, or when we're letting someone down, or when there has to be a consequence, right? Like when we are ultimately choosing something for the self in a particular moment, which means that someone else might be upset, there is a tolerance there that is required of us. And when our tolerance levels, right, are too weak, then we crumble. And so there's this discomfort that we really have to get okay with. And that's a hard thing to do. right? Like
Yeah.
this again is not a walk in the park, but so much of this is our ability to dial up our tolerance level to
Yeah.
be able to withstand that discomfort. One of my favorite lines from a favorite poem, The Invitation. You might know this one. I want to
Mhm.
know if you can disappoint another to stay true to yourself. That's it. That's it. That has so much to do with boundary setting. And for so many of us, I remember when I read that for the first time and I was like, gulp, no way, not interested. I
Right.
can't tolerate it. The
Yeah.
idea of it, I cannot tolerate it, right? To lose
Mm.
connection, to have somebody upset with me. I know what all of those things mean based on how I grew up.
Yeah.
Silent treatment, punishment, abuse, right? Like all of these things.
Mhm.
Woo, no, thank you. Right. And to be able to work through and resolve some of the things that need to be resolved in order to get to a place in our lives where our tolerance for that,
Yeah.
our capacity to withstand it
Mm.
is available to us. It's
And
hard work, but
it
that
is.
is where it is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It changes though too. It's like when you first, like I can go back and think of like the first big boundary conversations I had in my life when I was just sort of growing up. I'd been in therapy for a long time, but the child within me was so positive that the world was going to just stop spinning on its axis. Like everyone was going to be spontaneously bursting into flames, like for sure. I was like,
Yeah.
everyone's going to die from this action that I'm taking. And it was, even though it felt intolerable, I still did it. And then the confidence starts where you go, oh my God, like it's okay. And now I'm not so pissed off all the time. And I'm not so
Right.
frustrated. And I feel better understood, you know?
Yeah, it's this invitation to be in relationship with self differently. It brings us closer to ourselves when we start to do that. And you're right, like there is a confidence that actually does start to build after we do it for the first time, the second time, the third time, right? It really starts to strengthen this muscle. But yes, to what you said, they're all going to die. Like the internal death takes place too, right? Christina say, yeah, literal death. It feels like death for some of us to step into that, right? And I think the awareness of that this isn't just oh, you're going to feel really good on the other side of this. It's like, no, you're probably going to feel like total shit on the other
Yep.
side of it for some time, right?
Yes, but it does get better. And I think that
Yes.
when nobody died that first time, and then when nobody died that second time, and when nobody died that third time,
Mhm.
and since the whole time I've been doing it now, nobody's died, there's something so satisfying about knowing that you have the capability of telling the truth about how you
Yeah.
feel and that you're being authentic in your life. And I feel like when I was more of a people pleaser in my early 20s, I wasn't. I was not an emotionally trustworthy person, not because I'm a bad person, because I was a pleaser. And so that you're not
Yeah.
telling the truth, right? You're not telling the truth if you're
Yeah.
a pleaser. And that's having bad internal boundaries. I mean, that's what it is, right?
Right. Yeah. I didn't tell the truth for such a long time.
Mm.
And I think it's, that came from being a little girl. I was a boundaryless little girl um, who
Yep.
turned into a boundaryless adult. And I'll put the asterisks in here. It is never a child's responsibility to have boundaries. It's always the environment and the adults around us to create the environment in which healthy boundaries exist. Okay. But I had no boundary. I didn't know what it was. And I had parents around me who were going through really, really hard stuff,
Mm.
crashing and burning. And I believed, right, my perception of the system around me was that they were not well. And so there wasn't space for me to not be okay. And so I was fine.
Yep.
I was okay. I was unaffected. I was good, turned into I'm the cool girl. I'm down for everything. I'm unaffected. I'm unbothered. This is how I'm going to keep connection, right? This is what I
Mm.
believed. Right. And so I was not telling the truth
Right.
ever. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to share my pain. I didn't even have a relationship with it. It was too far away from me because
Yep.
I didn't believe that there was space for it. And I remember in my late 20s, I was dating someone and their ex came back into the picture and he's trying to decide whether to go back into the relationship with her or to stay in the relationship with me. And boom, pleaser came out, therapist also came out. totally understand. Take all the time in the world that you need. This must be so hard for you. Let me understand your
No.
story, yada, 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 right? All of it. And I remember having a conversation with a friend and it all clicked in. It's like, shoot, there's the role. There's the same exact role from childhood to this moment in time. And I remember it took some time. I had to like name the wound and I had to witness my pain and the loss and really grieve. But then eventually I was able to say to the guy, I'm going to remove myself from this equation. I actually am not okay with what's happening. I feel disrespected here. And Terri, for somebody who's never said those things before, who's never said, I'm not okay, right? Like this was so hard to get this out of my mouth. And I did it. And like I said before, this wasn't a mic drop moment. This wasn't like,
It's like sweaty and messy and just
like on the floor, didn't get out of bed, right? Like this was hard, was hoping that he'd come back around. It was like all of those things. And that's the thing with boundaries and telling the truth is that you often don't get the outcome that you want in that moment, right? Because we're nearsighted, right? It's like we often don't get the outcome that we really think we need in that moment and want in that moment. But for me, the confidence builder was I came off the tracks that had been deeply embedded. I came off of them and I started to create a new set of tracks, and it was hard and it felt like a death. And I was crying for, weeks, months it's like, it was awful. Right. And also is like, I did it. I did it. And I'm still here. And there's and there's still people around me. And I began to build that muscle over and over and over again. And so I just share that because I think it's very consistent with what you were saying before. And now my husband will laugh. He's like, not the same guy, but my husband's like, I have never heard you not be truthful and honest and share how you really feel. So
you're like, therapy works, people. That's all we're saying.
It works. Don't look back.
That's correct.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, V. I so appreciate you coming and celebrating and spending time with us.
Of course.
Tell us quickly, where can, and we're going to put all these notes in everything we're sending. But your book is out right now. Tell us quickly about your book, just because we're celebrating all the books.
Well, I happen to have her right here. The origin. Oops, shoot. I just pulled these out of my ear. The origins of you, how breaking family patterns can liberate the way we live and love. I have a new podcast out called This Keeps Happening, which is really cool because it's anonymous guests and I don't know them. We sit down as strangers and we talk about some challenge, some pattern that they can't find themselves out of. And we see what happens when humans just sit down and have a one-time, 1-hour consultation. And it's pretty incredible. And you can find me on Instagram at mindfulmft, as in marriage family therapy. Thank you, Terri. I love you and your boundary queenness, and so honored to be here. And I can't, this workbook, can't wait to dig in.
Woohoo. All right. Well, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming to the party.
Bye all. Thanks for being here.
Bye. All right. Now, how awesome is she? Right? How much did we learn? So much. Someone had asked a question before, and I think she did answer it, about examples of protection, which is really more being withdrawn in anger than anything else. And someone else asked about how to sign up for Boundary Bootcamp, the course. And someone on my team will drop it, but it's just terricole.com/ I think Boundary Bootcamp, but someone from the team will drop it. So, and you guys, yes, we are actually launching it right now, and it's immediate access. So it's pretty exciting. I'll tell you more about it at the end, but I just wanted you guys to know because people were literally asking if they wanted to sign up, and I would love to have you. A lot of you shared about family of origin, about having immature parents, about all of this stuff that was that what she was talking about brought up for you. So thank you so much for sharing. Vienna is so, her book is amazing, but so insightful. She's got a very, she's an original, like all the people, everyone who's here tonight, original thinkers. I'm always drawn to women in particular who like have their own take on things. That, of course, that speaks to me as well. So yes, questions I'm doing. All right. Yes, right on, Denise. Yes, people are joining. So they've been, which is super exciting. And then more time with me, which is fun too, right? Hold on, questions. I wanted to ask you guys a couple of questions before we have our next guest join us. From what Vienna was talking about, any aha moments, thoughts, feelings, questions that we want to reflect on before we have our next guest come in? A lot of you had a lot of insightful stuff. I love you too. I'm having trouble in distinguishing healthy boundaries versus simply just giving up and stop and not caring. Well, it sounds like you're having trouble not really distinguishing. It's like having healthy boundaries is a lot of work, and it sounds like it's grating on you, Kate, the work. Or is it that these things are not that important to you? That's my question, because I know what you mean. Like I'm always deciding, like, is this a fight worth having? Like, how important is it to me? All right, someone said one aha moment. Hold on. Come on back. Is my willingness to forgive when I'm actually not okay with someone's behavior. I realize it's a boundary issue. Oh my God, Claudia, it is. It actually is. Laura Lee said, I love the language she used to describe conflict in a relationship. Right. Protection and projecting. Absolutely. And what she shared about being the cool girl and about with the partner who was like, I don't know, I'm kind of having feelings for my old girlfriend. And she was like, totally cool. Take your time. I totally understand. And then got it together and was like, no, I don't. And that's not cool. And no, but it's almost like being the all, Claudia, what you're saying, it's almost like being the all understanding, like everything is fine, I'm easy breezy, is usually not true, because we're not, because we're human beings, Helen said, my therapist told me I didn't have boundaries, but did not really show me how to set them. Why, thanks, therapist. Well, lucky for you, you got the Boundary Boss Workbook and Boundary Boss, and the Boundary Boot Camp, which I will walk you through how to do it. But, Helen, that's not actually so very, that's not surprising, because I don't know that, it's a specific way of teaching it, right? It's like, you're going to walk through the process of learning how to do it. And I agree a lot with what Vienna is saying and the way that she teaches her stuff too, which is that we got to go back to go forward. We've got to go in to go out. So people love to be like, just give me the words, and I'll give you all the words. You guys know I'm the queen of scripts and I love doing it. But I don't just give you scripts. I teach you how to go in, understand why you relate to boundaries the way that you do. Because if we don't do that first, which is exactly what I walk you through in Boundary Boot Camp, I'm just saying it's true, because so much of the first half of the course, and it's an 8-week course, but the first half of the course is all about you, deep dive life. And yeah, it is a boot camp, which is why we're sort of extending the time so that you have more space, because this is the feedback you guys have given us, that it's intense. And of course, I kept adding stuff to it, making it even more intense. But anyway, moving on. Here we go. Questions. Erica said, I'm looking forward to listening again when I receive the recording. So much to ponder here. Thanks for inviting her, Terri. You're so right, Erica. And every conversation is probably going to be like that. It's so funny. When you're a psychotherapist, this actually is a party. Like, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing than talking about like deep emotional shit with you guys, Oh, Solange, thank you. I will guide you in Boundary Boot Camp. You know it. I love that. Here we go. I have to go out. That is true. Linda said your family blueprint workbook helped me. Excellent. I love it. Yes. And Abby said, yes, I'm trying to heal now so I can raise my child the right way. And that is commendable. And that's how we do it. How do we break cycles? And actually, one of our other guests is going to be talking about, literally, this is cycle breaking with Dr. Mariel Buque. So she will be here after Christine Gutierrez. So we will be talking about that because it's so important. Yep. And Joyce put in the link for anyone who wants to find out more information about Badger Boot Camp. All right, you guys, I want to actually, hold on. Becca said, my therapist told me looking into my family history is holding me back from developing into my best self. Thoughts? I will disagree. Unless you're obsessing, unless you're not moving forward because you're too busy doing a genogram that goes back 4,400 decades. Like, we have to go back to go forward. So it depends on the type of information that you're seeking about your family of origin. That's what I would say. But I do think it's important, actually, that to understand your family stuff, and that's, again, in the course, we do a whole thing about your family experience because you need to know. All right, let's move it on into, I want to introduce let me do it first, Christine, before you come up. So next is Christine Gutierrez. Christine and I have a long history. Christine was my mentee for years, and now we're really just soul sisters, but it's been years. I don't even know how long, but a long, long time. And she helped me so much in the beginning of me starting a business where I didn't want an intern. I didn't want help. She was graduating college and she was like, I want to do what you're doing. You're doing great. You're doing you need help. I was like, I really don't. Please stop. And she just wouldn't give up. And she was like, just meet me for tea. I promise you, I can help make your life better. And I'm so happy. She was very insistent because I love her to death. She has family now, but she's also a super accomplished published author. She's a Latina licensed psychotherapist, life coach, expert in love addiction, trauma, abuse, self-esteem. And she's the author of this beautiful book right here called I Am Diosa, which means I am goddess. I love it. Hold on. And the subtitle is A Journey to Healing Deep, Loving Yourself and Coming Back Home to Soul. She also has an affirmation deck, which is Wisdom Delama. She's got her bachelor's degree from Fordham University. She's been therapizing. I actually trained her. She's one of the only therapists besides my niece that I have trained. She offers private coaching, group coaching, transformational retreats, such as her annual Diosa Retreat. And I really want to come, Christine, this year in Puerto Rico. She has the Diosa Mastermind retreat in Bali. Like, she's just doing all the things. And she's the founder of Diosa Sisterhood, which is a global community where like-hearted women gather to heal, to inspire each other, and to collaborate. She's been featured in a million things. She currently resides in New York with her husband, Fernando Samalat, and daughter, Mar de Luz. For more on her work, you're going to go see her at ChristineG.tv. Don't worry, all this stuff is going to be when we say it, you guys. And you want to follow her at Cosmic Christine on Instagram. Okay. Unmute yourself. I love this woman. Hi, friend.
Hi, I love you so much. And I'm so grateful to be here.
Yay. All right. So let's talk about all the things. So much of your work is about self-love, right? Coming home to self, having women in particular embrace their beauty, their goddess, their divine nature, all of those things. So let's talk about in respect to boundaries. What are your top 3 boundaries that you think that women in particular need to set with themselves?
I think that the first thing that we often miss in this conversation is giving ourselves permission as women to really listen to our own desires, our own needs. We don't give ourselves even the permission to question the overculture, what we've been taught, what we've downloaded from the media, from our family, from our relationships, and just giving ourselves first the moment to question, who am I now? What are my values? Who do I be today? Right? And then from that space of knowing our true essence, I call this like our soul self, our true self, our highest self. That place is going to tell us what do I need to say? What needs to change? Number one thing is, this overgiving. We talk about this all the time, but this need to constantly caretake. And it can be the light side of this is that we're kind and we're helpful. And a lot of therapists are like this, and caretakers. I'm a mother as well. So we have this, and this is the positive aspect of it. But the negative aspect of it is that we caretake at the cost of not caretaking ourselves. So number one is, can I set the boundary with myself to really check in with myself and say, am I really giving from my true self? Am I of well-being? Or am I giving from a place of people pleasing? Right? Am I truly giving from my fullest self, my sacred yes? Or am I giving from a place of, I just want to be be liked, to be appreciated? Because so much of our self-worth ends up coming from this place of caretaking. And so it's a double-edged sword. And if we are doing this, we're not really allowing ourselves the space to be loved, to be taken care of, to be mothered, to be nurtured, right? And so we end up giving people what we want, which is really nice in theory, right? People are always like, give what you want to get. But a lot of times we give so much because we're scared to create that sacred pause between what happens if I don't give.
Right.
What am I going to get on the other side of that? And I want to share a quote from someone that I deeply respect, and I had the great honor of studying with, in addition to Terri, Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who is a phenomenal writer, psychotherapist, storyteller. And she wrote, "What steals energy that you do not fully grant is a thief in the house of the psyche. What steals energy that you do not fully grant is a thief in the house of the psyche. Whether it be a person, a place, a memory, a conversation, a meeting, or you yourself being the leaking seal around the chamber wherein the treasure is kept. Your soul self is the treasure. Your true self is the treasure. And when we leak our sacred and potent energy by not checking in with, is this in my true self alignment of yes? Or is this from my need to do X, Y, Z, people please? So I really want us to take that with us, and to really think about that this is this steals our energy from the house of our psyche and our spirit.
Wow. Can you go to the top of that quote though, and just how exactly does she word?
What steals energy that you do not fully grant is a thief in the house of the psyche. What steals energy? For me,
yes, the thing that really struck it for me was that you do not fully grant. Because think about your younger self, where it's like not stopping the thing that's happening that you don't like. You're not saying no, but you're not fully granting it either. And there's something about that. Wow, that is so powerful, Christine.
It's really this shift, and the way that I focus on therapy, on spirituality, is really the true definition of the word, that psychology means the study of the soul, not the study of the mind. And so when we really, really dive into this and say, this is how I stay connected to my true self. And when I don't, imagine it like energy leaking out each time. Each time you say yes, when you really mean no, it is energy leaking out from you, right? And so someone asked about caretaking, right? What does it mean when we want something returned? No, I mean, we genuinely want to caretake and give from our heart unconditionally, right? I'll use the example of my daughter. I love my daughter. I still breastfeed. I am utterly devoted to her, right? She is someone that I give to. She does not need to give anything to me. I'm just there to serve her and to hold space for her expression in this universe, right? And at the same time, if I do not take time for myself, to replenish myself, to center myself, to be who I'm meant to be as a woman in this world, I cannot healthily mother and nurture and caretake her. And so we can use this example for everything in our life, right? Is making sure that we are really caretaking ourselves. And really saying yes when we mean yes and no when we mean no. And
Yes.
on a more practical level, someone said they can't see me. Can you see me?
I can.
Okay. Can everyone else see me? Let me know.
Yeah.
I can see her.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that for the other person. Okay.
Another thing is I like to break things down into really the boundaries around, for me, the three main pieces of committing to our self-worth looks like time for my spiritual practice, and being committed to that. This is my commitment to myself. This is my time, my sacred devotion time, where I'm going to take time to listen to myself, to get to know myself, to date myself, to really connect to that place of you, because who you were yesterday is not who you are today, right? And oftentimes we get stuck in these identities, and we get stuck in these ways and these patterns, and we function in these ways almost like a robot, because you're used to playing this role in certain areas, whether that be with your family, whether that be with work, whether that be with certain kinds of people. And we forget to step out from that and really reconnect to our true self, to listen, who am I today? Is that role working for me? Right? Is that role working for me, or is it not working for me? Am I being my whole self with certain people, but not other people because I'm scared to disappoint? Right? So the commitment to taking care and tending to your soul, to your spirit, whatever word you want to use, is a boundary that I have in place with myself, but also a boundary that I encourage my clients to have in place with them. This is non-negotiable for me, right? And to be able to set that boundary outwardly and say, this is my time for my sacred self-care. This is something that I implement with my daughter as well. I use this language so that she's growing up around a mother that's also saying, I'm mostly home with her, even though I have this full business. It's centered on caretaking and being there close to her in these early years, full on, right? And also saying, Mama's going to go have self-care time. And so she understands this language around self-care and what self-care time means for me. And she sees me weaving it through my everyday life. So I don't just need to take it when I'm stressed or something. She sees me doing it. And so having this be a disciplined practice.
Right. And really, Kristen, you're talking about, this is really internal boundaries, right? These are boundaries with yourself that you're like, I'm prioritizing sacred time and prioritizing showing your daughter what that looks like. But I feel like it took a long time in my life to get to a point of feeling like it was okay to do that. Like I hid behind a lot of, and I don't know if you guys watching, listening can identify with this, but I hid behind a lot of my overfunctioning, my overworking, my need to achieve was a thing that made sacred anything really hard. And it really wasn't until my late 20s, early 30s that I was able to be like, wow. And really for me, it was after a cancer diagnosis, honestly, that made me go, hello, get it together, girl. Like this is no way to live. But I think that what you're saying is it's so important and so pivotal to having the life that you want and being authentic.
Yeah. And then I want to speak to having to advocate for yourself. Having to advocate for yourself goes hand in hand with setting healthy boundaries externally, because we don't just function alone. Oftentimes we have people around us that are influencing our feeling of safety, maybe, or our feeling of, will I be judged by this person for taking up more space or time or whatever it is, that the resources that you need. And in marriage, in relationships, with your friendships, really being able to voice out loud, I'm feeling over capacity right now. My nervous system is not feeling well. I'm feeling, like I'm at a 20% out of 100%. What I need to tend to myself today is I need to set aside an extra 3 hours or an extra hour, an extra 10 minutes, whatever it is you have, to be able to take care of myself. So being able to advocate for yourself, because what I see this as is that we become the advocates for our own health and our own nervous systems, our own capacity for well-being, and they're not going to guess it for us, right? And a lot of times we, you know, especially in the initiation of becoming a mother with a toddler, I realized that I really had to let people know consistently. And I became even better at creating boundaries and being able to say, I need this and I need that. And it's something so simple, but so tricky when we're so used to functioning from a certain identity and a certain role for so long, as the people pleaser, as the codependent, as the, you know, the over-functioning perfectionist that wants to please everyone and make everyone happy, and really understanding that in order to really come back home to self, to really get to know yourself, to really be authentic to yourself, to really be the person that you're meant to be, not only to yourself, but to others. Like if you really care about yourself and others, you got to be right with you. And the only way to do that is to actually start giving what you can give and say no to what you can't, and start using language around that to support yourself. Not everyone's going to be happy with it.
Yes.
You know, that's part of it. This is part of managing the disappointments around even the energetics, especially if you're a very sensitive person, which many people that are over functioning, recovering perfectionists, codependents, they're sensitive folks that deeply care about others and that can almost feel what other people feel, even if they don't say it. So you're feeling what they're feeling and you're responding to the feeling, even if they're not saying anything, because you want to make sure they're okay. Meanwhile, you're like, you know, freaking out, having panic attacks, and not able to take care of yourself, right? So it's okay in the beginning to worry. I saw someone write, worrying about what other people would think. It's okay. It's natural and normal to worry when you're learning to step into a new identity, right? What Terri is sharing is, how can I step into this identity of, I get to be good at boundaries. I am a person that is good at boundaries. I get to share and I get to manage the feelings that come up for me as I set these boundaries with others. And knowing that if you are really being authentic to yourself and someone is having a reaction to that, it is not your job to manage that emotion for that person. And that will be the work, right? To really step into, and sometimes you need to physically remove yourself from the space and keep practicing it until your muscles get stronger in practicing this kind of self boundaries and self advocacy for yourself. And like Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes said, right, to not have what steals energy that you do not fully grant is a thief in the house of the psyche, right? So this for me has been key, and to really use that framework as I don't want things to be the thief of my own energy. And the last piece of this quote is, think on things if you lose energy easily and make the adjustments to what you can and cannot engage with accordingly, as you can, as is within your will and within your power. And so for me, this means that it is our responsibility and our duty as healthy adults to start looking at the areas of our life where we have not been honoring our truth, whether that be not taking up time for our spirit, not taking time for fun, not taking time for sexuality, not taking time for our creative endeavors, not taking time for just being alone, whatever it is, and looking through those and saying, where am I losing energy? Where are there leaks? Where am I saying yes when it's a no? Or am I saying no when I really want to say yes because I'm scared to step outside my comfort zone? And really starting to encourage yourself to be the advocate for your highest self and see yourself as, I'm guarding my highest self. And the more I have healthy boundaries, the more my highest self comes to the front and center space of my life.
It's really what you're really so beautifully sharing, Christine, is it's living authentically. It's carving out space to do the work, to know who you are, and to advocate for who you are, right? Like you're like the way that you go to the mat for your babe, right? Like Mark, you're like, you would do anything, right? For her, it's like loving ourselves the way we know how to love our children and going to the mat for yourself in that same way as what you're describing. And it's so important because, again, you're teaching, listen, I want everyone to do this for themselves, but there is something very powerful about also knowing that you are a cycle breaker of sorts and that you are teaching her a way to take care of herself.
Yeah. And, another piece that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned was being committed to our own values, being committed to what the value is that we want, whatever that is for us, right? So for me, it is, making sure that I am right now centered on my family, right? And so that means that when work comes in, let's say, that doesn't honor my energetic capacity for my role as also mother, which is my centered value right now, then it's a no for me. And so these filters make it really easy once you have those values centered to be able to say yes and no. So questioning, what am I valuing in this season of my life right now? What are my values? What is it that is front and center? What matters to me? Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's, sleep. Maybe it's spending time with family. Maybe it's more rest because we live in a culture that glamorizes overworking. And then you have these as your filters so that you can go back to, you can write them down on a piece of paper and you can say, does this meet my criteria and my values here? Does this meet my value of check, family, check, rest, check, abundance, whatever it is. And if it's a no, then honoring the no. And if it's I need something different to make this a possibility, how can we make this a possibility so that it becomes a win-win to being able to say yes? And, you mentioned, a moment in my life, like a moment that really shifted things for me, that was pivotal in setting boundaries in my own life. And one of those major moments for me in setting boundaries was, there were many, but I'll share two. One was pre-marriage when I was dating. I love what Vienna shared about her over people pleaser moment there with that guy. But for me, it was specifically with dating. And because I had a history of, responding and feeling needy and wanting to, text back right away and, figuring out the game to play and all these things that I was consumed with because of my lack of self-esteem at the moment, right? I then went to the other side of the scale where I was scared to actually share my truth because I thought it was going to come off as needy. There was a true part of me that was acting needy because I wasn't filling my own well of self-love yet. But there was another piece of me that was also equally valid that knew what she didn't like. And so I had to really love up on that part of me that was not loving herself, that was, covering up the pain with alcohol or whatever it was that I was doing at the time, to really know and love and trust myself enough to be able to then voice and say, hey, we went on that date. It was great. Your style of communication, right? And the dips in communication in and out is just not my style. It doesn't work for me. And while I enjoyed our date, this doesn't work for me. And actually what I found was, wow, this is what it sounds like to be empowered. This isn't needy. This is actually confidence in sharing my needs and desires. I can almost like go to a flashback moment of me probably like screenshotting something to Terri back in the day. I have like a memory that came up of me screenshotting something to Terri back in the day. I'd be like, what the do I say here? And like the power of this work is that as you start to do the deep dive, as you unpack your story, as you understand what are the ways that you've been people pleasing, compensating, doing for others, but not doing for yourself, is that you start to have a voice in saying what you actually need and want. And what happened was that I got closer and closer to being with the right people because I was saying no to the people that were not meant for me. And someone said, how do you ensure to honor your category of your personal values in the season? I struggle with wanting to keep track of every single I think that this question about like making sure that you are honoring your values in the season is doing a check-in with ourselves, making a list of your current self. What are the values that I'm honoring right now? what is really important to me in this season of my life. And then before someone asks you something, doing that check-in with yourself and really feeling into your body of like, what do I have capacity for today? This is going to change, you know, and we don't have to wait till we're sick physically to do the same thing. It's so easy for us to quickly, you know, say, oh, I'm sick, I can't come to that call. But what if we're emotionally sick one day? What if there's heavier grief one day? What if something is stirring up for us in a way? We have to honor our emotional needs just as much as our physical needs in that. Yeah. And then finally, I would like to share the piece of this, needy versus confidently voicing. This is a huge thing for women and for many people. And lastly, with family, a big moment for me was setting a boundary with my family, which was much trickier. I come from a Puerto Rican household. I saw someone else share culturally, many cultures. I think cross-culturally, many families are like this, and I'm sure some more than others, but there's a lot of enmeshment, a lot of projection of their beliefs. And I went to a family party and they were like running to hug and kiss my daughter. She's so cute. I get it, right? But my daughter likes her space first. And we teach her body boundaries and that she gets to say yes and no to hugs, no matter who, even with us. And we always ask her permission. Do you want a hug? Do you want a high five? Do you want a, you know, a kiss? Whatever it is. And one of our family members didn't do that. And so my husband and I quickly, you know, we're like, she needs some space. And in front of Mar de Luz, we showed her, I know you're really excited, but we like to honor Mar de Luz's space, and she will tell you if she feels comfortable. We like to ask her first. And this is an important piece of teaching her early on that her yes and her no matters, that even with her parents, she can assert that. And were they happy? No, but we were happy to, as you've mentioned before, be these cycle breakers and the generational patterns of like having to people please and saying yes to kissing someone that you don't want to, and devaluing her voice as a child. So really, this is where it comes down to, is that we have to be advocates for what we believe in, for ourselves and for others.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Christine, for being here. I appreciate you. You guys, everywhere you can find Christine, will, of course, will be with the replay, but you hang out. You're Cosmic Christine on Instagram. I know that. And what is your website?
ChristineG.tv.
Excellent. I love you, and I so appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Besitos. Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you. How fun. You guys, this is like having like an interview show, basically. But where it's just like next people coming and going. It's so great. What I loved, what Christine was talking about was really internal boundaries and shifting. And you guys had so many great comments. And in the course itself, we also cover, massively cover internal boundaries, because I think that this is the thing that people really don't know what they are, which is basically, how do I relate to myself? Do I keep my word to myself? Do I say what I'm going to do for me? Because a lot of times we say what we're going to do for other people and we do it, but then we somehow don't actually keep our word when it comes to us. So yes, Christina R said older generations hate that, but what are you teaching? Yeah, teaching the younger generation. And she is a lucky kid. And yet there really is something that can be really damaging. Like if we're forcing boundaries on, like, we're breaking through the boundaries of kids. Yes, that was great. I love her. I've known her for so long. Yes, I definitely need the replay before 4 p.m. PST. I listened to one of your podcasts. Right on. Excellent. All right, I want to ask you guys a couple of questions before we welcome our next guest. So any thoughts or anything else you wanted to say about Christine, or any thoughts that you have, questions that you have? You didn't get the workbook. Well, go get it. What do you mean? This workbook? And speaking of internal boundaries and scripts and saying all the things, one of the things that is really different about this book for us is that first of all, it's all new stuff. It's literally all new stuff. So it's stuff that, hello, my friend. It's all stuff that is not in the other book. which is kind of amazing. And that was sort of a different experience where a lot of people wanted, we're like, it's going to be a companion book. And I was like, no, it's not. It is a standalone book experience. So before I'm going to be welcoming my friend, and I will tell you when I'm welcoming you, for you guys right now, where are you in your boundary journey? Do you ever wonder if your boundary requests are reasonable? Like, do you still struggle sort of with wondering, do you have the right to have a boundary request? Do you question your right to assert how you feel and what you want? Because I feel like I get a lot of emails from people being like, how do I even know if what I want is right? Yeah. Do you still get tongue-tied and kind of freeze when you know you have to set a limit with someone? Because again, so much of the time we do this because we don't have the words. And this is part of why in the book, the whole third section of the workbook itself is really new ways for you to write scripts for you that you can actually customize for you. Because again, there's no one size fits all. Linda said, I overthink. And after I said it, I overthink. I overthink if I did it right. Yes. Setting limits with old friends are very difficult. Agreed. Still struggle with specific friends. Same. And family members. I feel expect to respond quickly to all drama and uncertain if you don't have the mental capacity to do so, said Lisa. And I think that's very true. It's like, how do we not fall into that category? And so much of it is when you have the words, it makes it so much easier, where you can actually plot and plan, this is how I'm doing it. So it's something, of course, in the workbook, we didn't duplicate anything from Boundary Boss, which of course made it like a ridiculously much heavier lift than we thought it was going to be for a workbook. But we're actually super proud of it because it is really, the value is great. I know many of you already ordered it. And for those of you who want me to walk you through, do Boundary Bootcamp. It is on demand right now. So if you're interested, terricole.com/ I think it's just BB is what she wrote before. But someone else will drop it. Abby said, my mother-in-law, mother-in-law problems. Well, don't worry, we're going to get into that with our next guest. Triggers my mother wound big time, which is crazy because I just built the courage to speak my truth to my mom. It's the wounded part of us, though, that feels it. Do you know what I mean? So I totally get it. All right. I really want to. Oh, last thing I want to say about the workbook before I introduce Mariel Buqué is when you buy the workbook, there are QR codes, and those are links that you get a whole second bonus bundle to support the work in the workbook, because we had so much stuff that we couldn't even fit in there. So anyway, I'm just saying, it's 2 books for the price of 1, basically. Speaking of family members, as we are, let me intro Dr. Mariel Buqué. She is an Afro-Dominican, Columbia University-trained psychologist, intergenerational trauma expert, and the author of the book. Hold on. I got my book right here. You know I do, sister. Break the Cycle, A Guide to Healing Intergenerational Trauma. This is a most beautiful book, and this really does focus on healing the wounds of intergenerational trauma. Clinical framework is very holistic, infuses with ancient and indigenous healing practices into modern comprehensive therapeutic approach. You've been everywhere. You do all kinds of workshops. Your clinical expertise and your trauma healing approach has been featured in a ton of media outlets. And really, people are onto you now, my friend. You are the worst kept secret going, Dr. Mariel Buqué. So I want to say thank you so very much for being here. You guys, you can find Dr. Mariel at drmarielbuque.com, but don't worry, all of that will be in the notes with the replay of this, and you can pre-order a copy of Break the Cycle. We're going to have that link in there as well. So hi, how you doing? Welcome.
Hi, Terri. It's always such a pleasure. I sit here and I also just listen to your voice because your voice is one of my favorite voices. It's why I listen to you on Insight Timer, and even the workbook. I'm gonna be, I got it on Kindle, but I'm gonna be getting it on Audible as well. I want to listen to your voice because it's so soothing and it makes me feel like I'm like immersed in the work with you. So love it. Thank you for this
You
beautiful
are.
gift you've given us of yet another amazing and incredible book. I mean, I have the first one here, right? Which
So
was
cute.
like groundbreaking. And then, you continue giving us what we need. So thank you also.
Well, I appreciate you and appreciate you coming. I want to talk about intergenerational boundaries with family of origin. Like this is stuff that, and you can see if you've been here for a bit in the chat, like everyone, all the cultures from all the places, from all the people, from all the countries are like, I'm having problems with my family of origin, with my parents, with my siblings, with whomever. Hold on, when you have awareness, you're taking action. Okay, we're going to get there. Yeah, Claire's talking about, any advice on navigating it when you have awareness and are taking action, but the rest of your family is still in denial and lack the awareness of intergenerational trauma and related behaviors. Well, that's the perfect place to start. Please share.
And we believe in bibliotherapy. So if you want to gift the gift of boundaries and cycle breaking, that's probably a great start. Interestingly enough, Terry, before I actually even thought about writing a book, that was actually one of my major recommendations with people whenever we would do some of the work. At that point in time, it would be bibliotherapy. For anybody who isn't familiar, is like when therapists in essence like recommend specific texts that could be enlightening and provide us with insight and help in the very ways that, of course, these books are doing. And back then I would recommend books and articles, because there is a way in which people are able to digest information that comes from a place of expertise rather than you pointing the finger in their direction, where walls are just kind of erect and there's not a lot of productive conversation can be had from that place.
Yep. So basically one suggestion, and it's funny, I actually did a reel about this where I was saying, get these for, Christmas is coming and you probably have some boundary bullies in your life. And some people might think that you gifting this to them is passive aggressive, but I say it's not. And I was kind of kidding. And then I kind of wasn't, but the reality is books that speak to you, right? Because again, someone had said, we can't change other people. We can't, but we can share our healing. And that's definitely what I did within my own family of origin, where I started to change. I was the first person in my family who stopped drinking, even named addiction in any way. The family was like, wait, what? I mean, everybody doesn't start drinking in the house at 15. What are you talking about? Like, no idea. But I knew it couldn't come from, because I'd had so much therapy, couldn't come from the place of me being like, you're all a bunch of alkies, So I did not actually do that, but I think that what you're saying is super helpful. So let's talk a little bit about, for you, because people are saying they're having difficulties with upholding or setting boundaries with family of origin. What are your, did you bring some tips we asked you for?
Ever since I read your original text, I had always, for me, upon reading it, there was emotion, right? Like surfacing. And that's what tends to happen with us. Like whenever we're like, I'm going to do this because I know this is exactly what I need to do in order to be able to feel healthy. I need to erect these boundaries. And then there's this emotional turmoil that happens inside of us when we're erecting those boundaries that can be really like the determining factor as to whether or not you're going to be able to maintain them and be that boundary boss, or shift back into old patterns and in essence be a cycle keeper of all the unhealthy patterns that have been floating through your family. And that is why I always help people to go, and I even in my own work, I always say, let's go right back to the body, because what is your body telling you that it can't contain right now when you're trying to erect these boundaries? And how is it that we can help you settle your nervous system while you hold the boundary, right? Because what tends to happen for a lot of us especially cycle breakers, people like yourself who are like, the first, and like, we're like, we're doing this many times out of intuition. Other times we have incredible texts like what you've offered us. And in those moments where we're feeling immense guilt, we're feeling a lot of sometimes shame, because we are shamed. Sometimes we're like, people point the finger at us, like, you think you're better than me, right? And so like all of that like starts manifesting as like all these intense emotions. And eventually what those emotions do is that they bring down your boundaries. So for me, in the work of boundary setting within multi-generational in relationships, and the ways that we are like trying to navigate those differences that we might have with other people in our families, is to really help us to sit with the discomfort and then work through the discomfort so that it doesn't remain there and we can maintain the boundary thereafter.
Yes, Christina said, yeah, like we're abandoning the family.
Exactly. And then,
Right.
I always say like the real loyalty to family is the loyalty that you have to the healing that you are producing in yourself that is going to go back to your family. Because whenever we heal not just laterally. We're not just healing ourselves and maybe our intimate relationship that we might have. We're also healing the people that came before us, our parents, grandparents, people who didn't have either the actual access to healing tools in the beautiful ways that we have here now, or they just didn't have the motivation to actually heal. They wanted to be set in their cycle keeping ways. And it made it so that they never broke the cycles that they needed to break to not create hurt in you. And then also we're extending that healing forward, because when we're showing up in a more healed self, our children are going to feel that. They're going to feel, and we're also modeling how we show up as a more healed self, as somebody who shows up to those family gatherings and isn't actually engaging in the interchange that they might have been accustomed to in the past. They're no longer like, not before, maybe they were stuck in a fight mode, like fight, freeze or fawn. They may have been stuck in that mode and may have been like always lunging at someone whenever they felt like, okay, like they're gonna step out of their phase. They're gonna say something that's gonna, create a trigger in me. And so default fight. Now, if you yourself are in a more regulated state, whenever you're erecting the boundary and they say something that you know is going to trigger you, you are already holding your cycle breaking quality. And then your children who are witnessing that are also going to see how to handle a moment when somebody is trying to push your buttons. And they're actually going to internalize that. They're going to internalize that as their own practice whenever somebody tries to push their buttons. They're going to internalize that groundedness that you're reflecting. And so there's so much that happens in those moments when we ourselves can turn the work inward and really settle our nervous system in the process of setting and maintaining boundaries.
So for you personally, because you're a cycle breaker within your own family system, so what are the practices that help you the most to keep your nervous system regulated? And how do you help clients? Like, what do you suggest that they do?
I suggest that people engage in holistic practices as a lifestyle. I've been doing holistic practices for the past 20 years now. And I started off with just 60 seconds. And, and I started off also just like as I segued into sleep at night. And now it's like, my day is sandwiched, right? Like it's like a lot of self-care in the morning, a lot of self-care at night, and then the rest of the day just happens. And the reason why I propose that is because I believe in us being able to disrupt unhealthy family patterns by way of making sure that we are looking after ourselves in a sustainable way, not in a reactive way. What I mean by that is that, it's not about like, oh, this big blow up happened, now go take care of yourself. Yes, that's what we should do. However, we also have to do all of the nervous system restoration that we're going to need to do in order for our nervous system to then start defaulting to a new default, defaulting to calm, defaulting to a rest state, instead of defaulting to alarm, alarm, alarm. And the more that we do these things, the better off that we're going to be able to have a nervous system that is more settled, even if the chaos around us persists. And oftentimes people ask me like, well, how much do I have to do? Like for how long, right? Like, 20 years, it sounds like a lot. But in reality, what science tells us and what neuroscience tells us is that body memory is like, it actually can be achieved in a very short amount of time. And it takes an approximate 300 or so like repetitions of a body-based practice, like deep breathing, like sound bath meditations, like meditation, like walking meditations, like even mindful cooking, like something that can really bring you back into yourself. And it takes about 300 repetitions for our nervous system to register, okay, we're not deep in trauma, we're safe, right? And 300 repetitions sounds like a lot when you just say the number, but if you think about taking 5 minutes each day for an entire year, we're talking just a year out of the 30, 40, 50, 60 plus years that you have been existing in a body that feels like it's on fire and it's always in an alarm state whenever you're around family. If you can redirect your energy and your motivation towards doing some of those nervous system restoration practices, it's going to make it so that you're able to engage in those very same situations. Remember, the chaos is still there, but the chaos does not exist internally within you.
Beautiful. How does, question for you. So with people who you're sort of we're cycle breaker, as you would say, you're the one who's doing it differently. How much space, if the family remains toxic, how much space do you, because, it's, you hear this on the interwebs a lot where people are like, just go no contact, right? As if that's easy to do. That's, for me as a therapist, it's one of the last things, unless someone is actively abusing you, harming you, right? But it's nobody's first choice to be like, I'm going no contact with my whole family. Sometimes you need to. So what do you suggest in the way of separation or protection, or what do you talk to your clients about? Like how can they, even if you're not triggered, are there still things to do to protect yourself from a toxic family system?
Yes. So I'd like to offer like two things that come to mind for me. So first and foremost, I like the idea of being more self-aware than we have been in the past. So that means that we have to be like really attuned internally as to how a family member makes us feel. Very often when we're in that interchange with family members, because we are like just, our entire system is just like prepared to fend off the threat and protect us, we're not necessarily tuning in. There isn't like a pause or a moment to do that. And so we're not understanding to what extent is this person taking us out of our comfort zone and placing us in a state of psychological unsafety, right? Like lack thereof.
Yeah.
So the way that I like to think about these things is, without perhaps even talking to the person, sit around them, engage with them, even just think about them, right? Like maybe they're nowhere near you, you're in your own home, but think about them. And then take inventory of how it feels to actually think about this person, to think about the things that they tend to say, to think about last holiday season, right? Like, and the things that were said then, and like really take inventory. Is it tolerable stress? Or do you feel like it's toxic stress, meaning like you literally want to like get out of your own body? Mm-hmm. That's going to actually help you to identify what level of interaction to have with this person. Now, granted, like the boundary language, I think it's what you find here in your book and in your workbook, right? Like, I think then you start engaging in the boundaries centered language and practices that actually like create the boundaries that make sense according to how safe you tend to feel or how unsafe you tend to feel around a person. So it's always on a spectrum. You may have an aunt that her level of violation and the ways that she may talk about, let's say like your body, cause you to really have an internal stir versus perhaps like your father, who may be a little bit milder with his language, but is still a bit triggering. So you're going to vary it in essence based on the scale of sense of psychological safety that the person is able to offer you.
Yes. I love that so much. And I think, Mariel, so much of the work is really, so much of your book and so much of the work that you do is really just giving us all permission to change. And like it's reframing being a cycle breaker as something that is good and healthy, because it is something that unconsciously, and of course, when you do the work, when you're reading the book, when you're letting, Dr. Mariel walk you through it, you realize what is in the basement of your mind, which is all of this fear of like getting kicked out of the tribe, like all of this fear of being other, all of this fear of not, I'm thinking about when my family kind of, a bit of a male basher family, teeny bit, I'd say, very, very estrogen driven. And I remember like really coming to a point in therapy thinking, I don't want to believe that. And maybe it's true about some men, but it's not true about all. And I feel like I can find someone who's not like that. Like, and I didn't want to go along with it. And yet it really required me to differentiate myself and say, I don't think that's funny. And if the tables were turned and that these were four men making jokes about women, none of us would think it was funny. So, and my sisters were like, relax, but they got over it. Right. And there is a shift, but it does take a feeling of like, you have to get over that fear of being rejected, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, like in interactions with family members, with friends, with colleagues, like, with all the people that we have to set boundaries with, I think it's really, it's critical for us to be able to feel like we have an opportunity to really like take a step back. Many of these interactions, like they happen, like, and automatically like people are responding to one another. What I like to say about the work with, cycle breaking work or holistic work itself is that it actually offers us like 2 to 3 seconds that we wouldn't have otherwise had to actually like just take a step back and like really take inventory of ourselves in this situation in a way that could be reflective of the values that we want to uphold for ourselves. It could be reflective of like, if I identify as a boundary boss, which I do, I want whatever it is that's going to come out of my mouth next to be reflective of the work that I've done to embody that boundary boss persona. And so those seconds are so critical, and they actually elicit a lot of pride in a lot of cycle breakers, because then we feel like, goodness, that was not me 10 years ago. I would have been completely different. And there's so much pride that comes from that healing journey.
Yes. So good. Oh my God. Thank you so much for coming, Mariel. I so appreciate you. I love you. I appreciate all the things. We'll include all the links. Yes. To break the cycle, baby. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Terri. Thank you for all you do. I hope that everybody really gets this book. It has helped me. I know it's going to help so many people and it has already. Your other book has already. And we just thank you for pouring into all of us with this work.
Because I love you. That's why.
Take care, my
Thanks,
friend.
Brandon.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
All right. You guys, how great is she? Just great. So happy that she came. I want to know your takeaways, your thoughts, questions you got. Family stuff is major, right? You guys, family stuff is major. For those of you asking about Boundary Bootcamp, because this is happening, it's coming up. And at the end, I'll tell you more about what we've changed and how it's going to be. But that's one major part of it, because we relate differently to our family of origin when it comes to boundaries than we do anybody else, right? Anybody else. Because why? Well, I'm going to say, I think they're the people we've been dancing with the longest, right? They're the original dance troupe where I do this and you do that. And when you can start to shift that, yes, Christina R said, rocking the boat. That is correct. We're rocking the boat, but we're doing it gently. Part of it is realizing that you can do it gently, just one next right action at a time. but it's learning that you can do it. All right. Tanya said, I've also struggled with having to respect cultural and family traditions, but so much do not sit well with me for so long. It's great to hear these talks. Yeah. And there is an understanding, especially with Mariel's work. There is this cultural sensitivity to what it would be. Thank you. Thank you, honey. That's plenty. Thanks, babe. I appreciate it. You could shut that because I don't want the cats coming in. Hello. Sorry, I needed water. I texted Victor. Back to the family systems stuff that we were talking about, and the intergenerational trauma stuff, but also with boundaries, with different cultures. It is definitely different. How you would relate to your family of origin in India would be very different than how you would do it in Hoboken, New Jersey. Right. I mean, unless you're from an Indian family, then it might be exactly the same. But you understand what I'm saying, that there are cultural elements that we absolutely have to take into consideration. And we certainly do. I do in the book. We certainly do in the course, because we have to know our own culture. We know what is expected of us, right? We know what is expected of us. So any questions or thoughts that you have about the family stuff? Let's get into it. Yes, Linda said, I take many positive steps but fall back a bit. That's so normal. That's so normal, though. This is just therapy. It's like 3 steps up, 2 steps back, usually. So that's the nature of change. We do it in fits and starts, and it's normal. So don't feel like it's got to be different than that, Lynn, because it really doesn't. Kate said, what do you mean expected of us? Well, culturally, what is expected in, Christine Gutierrez was talking, she's from a Puerto Rican family. What's expected in a Puerto Rican family of how close the family is, how much you see them, how often you talk, how everyone is giving you their opinion on everything. That's a cultural thing. You being what is expected of you is that you're okay with that. Being a cycle breaker might be exactly what Christine was saying, where, like, normally, would you tell your tia, your aunt, that she can't snuggle up with the baby if the baby doesn't want to hug her? You wouldn't. But because Christine's a cycle breaker, she does, because she honors Marge loses her baby's ability, right? Her right, even as a child, to say no to something, which I think is amazing. Christina R said, I told my mom I wasn't wearing something Christmas, and she left, served it to me anyway, and told everyone I hated her cooking. Oh, I wasn't eating pork one Christmas. Yeah, she served it to me anyway and told everyone I hated her cooking. Which is so funny how they could just make it about them. You're like, how is me not eating pork about you? It's really not. Kate was saying my mom has no boundaries herself, so she doesn't acknowledge mine or other people's. I wonder how to tackle this. Distance is good, right? Distance, physical distance, and literally not answering questions that you don't want to answer, like not doing it. Exactly. Yeah, sometimes you have to detach. That's true, or step back. Claire said, when parents think they can still tell you what to do despite being 36 years old, disrespecting boundaries because they're your mother and that gives them the right to tell you what to do. But here's the thing, though, Claire, it actually doesn't. And even though they think that, oh, hello, how you doing? Wait, turn your camera off. I'm not ready for you. I want to read your whole friggin' bio. Go. Could you not hear me? Danielle LaPorte.
Hi.
Turn your camera off. I'm not ready for you yet.
Oh, I'm supposed to not have my camera on and I'm just getting my lip on. Okay, bye. Later. I don't know how to turn my camera off.
Of course you don't. You're alone. I'm sorry.
Fine.
You do. It looks like a camera. But don't leave. You know how to do it. It's unbelievable. Anyway, our next guest is Danielle LaPorte. There she was, putting on her lipstick. Moving back into the family thing quickly before I want to properly introduce Danielle. Your parents, back to what Claire was saying about your parents think they have a right just because they're your parents. They don't. And what you think matters. You cannot take their advice. You cannot tell them what's on your mind, right? And here's the thing. Someone's saying, I'm guessing my older mother will never understand. She's too invested in misunderstanding me, which is a lot of the case. But here's the thing. They don't need to understand, right? Our job has to be to protect ourselves. That's our job, is we can stay lovingly connected without letting them trample on our boundaries. And if you know someone is super committed to misunderstanding you, then that's what they're committed to. You know what I mean? And it is hard. I totally agree that it's hard, but it's possible for you to still have a happy life, right? How to not answer direct questions that make you uncomfortable. You can use humor. There's a million ways that you can avoid it. I teach you all of it in the course. I give you a million ideas in here. You can be like, I know enough not to answer that question. You're sneaky. Use humor. I use humor all the time to avoid shit I don't want to talk about. And it's okay. And someone may still not like it. And that's okay too, right? Like, we're going to survive. Okay. I want to tell you about our next guest. Danielle LaPorte is one of my besties for a very long time. She's super special. You guys know her. She's got tons of books out. She's very smart. She's a member of Oprah's Super Soul 100, a group who, in Oprah Winfrey's own words, is uniquely connecting the world together with a spiritual energy that matters, which is the truth. DLP, the former director of a future studies think tank in Washington, D.C., where she managed a team creating global scenarios. She now speaks about the intelligence of the heart. Yes, she does. Her most recent book, which is amazing, How to Be Loving, When Your Heart is Breaking Open and the World is Waking Up, is also an audiobook and ebook. And she also has the most delicious voice in the world with a companion deck and a journal. Danielle is also the author of the Firestarter Sessions I loved, The Desire Map Changed My Life, White Hot Truth I loved, and the producer of dozens of media kits and online programs, spiritual support. She is also the creator of the Heart-Centered Membership and the Heart-Centered Leadership Program, 400 leaders in 30 countries, hosting conversation circles, retreats, workshops. She's amazing. She also has a charity, because of course she does, Ally Global Foundation, helping survivors of human trafficking to rebuild their lives. Just all the things. Also, Trees Sisters Reforestation Project, and V-Day, a movement to end violence against women and girls. She lives in Vancouver, BC. Yes, she does. And she's the best. Yes, that's all we're saying. I just love you. She's one of my best friends. And thanks for coming. So now turn your camera back on, please, you tech genius. You can do it. I believe in you.
You know what's best about this? I think you sent me a video today saying, don't turn your camera on when you come in. But I thought I was going to be like in a room. And anyway, I'm here in the dark with bad lighting, but my heart is radiant. Yes.
Your heart is radiant and your lighting looks just fine, my friend. All right. So many things to talk about, but thank you so much for coming for our little, it wouldn't be a party without you, my friend.
Yeah. And I made notes because I answered your questions in advance. I've actually come prepared.
Okay, good. So let's get to it. So 3 boundaries that you have set to increase your self-care, or that you think people should set to increase their self-care. Go.
Okay. 1, being a chronic overdoer, overachiever, almost an inability to sit still and do nothing. I have started practicing the Pomodoro time management method, and it's super simple. So Italian psychologists came up with this. It's like sweep, you set a timer in 20 to 30 minute blocks. Now, because of my chronic overachieving, I set my timer for 34 minutes. So I feel like I'm gaming the system.
Psycho.
And it's 34 is also my favorite number. And so you set a timer, no interruptions. That means I give myself permission to not be on Slack, to not answer my text, to not get back to everybody. And I also know that a little like sweetness is coming. Like maybe it's literal. I'll get up and I'll have my 1 square of dark chocolate, or I'll like dance to something, or I'll task switch, and I'll do my other addictive stuff in between, like go scroll Instagram and stuff. But it's been really helpful. And then after 4 sessions of your timed sessions, then you take a real actual break. It's not just about task switchy. So that's been super helpful. The other healthy boundary perspective is a bit of a story. It's a short story. So in the last couple months, interviewing lots of people for the team, marketing directors, social media managers, literary agents, podcast agents, all kinds of people. And in one of those conversations, well, I had a series of, like, obviously many conversations. I would say, do you think that, we could do this project by this time and get this for it? I don't know. And somebody said to me, Danielle, my job is to manage your expectations. And I just very politely moved on. I was like, well, if you're going to manage my expectations, we're not a fit. And what I got really clear on was, your job is not to manage my expectations. I'm a grown up. I have vision. I can take care of my expectations. Your actual job for which you are getting paid for is to meet my expectations. And
right.
That was
just not funny.
Yeah, like, so clear. It's a great lesson in, it just affirmed a life philosophy for me, which is, you keep interviewing people and asking for opinions and perspective until you hear what you want to hear, essentially. And it's not about hiring yes people. And it's not about working with people who aren't as strong or informed as you. It's about resonance. So I resonate with people who want to meet my expectations and not tell me that something's not going to work. If it doesn't work, we're in it together, And the third one is like super simple, but it's been really big for my health. My new health boundary is no more full winters in Vancouver. I have been sucking it up for a decade. I've been in this, like, I'm so enlightened, I don't complain about the weather. I mean, it's just, why complain about things you can't control? Well, I can control how I feel in lots of circumstances, and I can get on a plane and get somewhere where it's just for 4 weeks, sunny, vitamin D, and I don't end up with a chronic bronchitis, something. So that's it.
So where are we going this year?
We're going to Nicaragua for 4 weeks.
Oh my God, I so want to do it too.
Come on down. Yeah, one of my new team people, goddesses, who wants to meet my expectations.
Thank you.
Not manage them. She lives there, so I'm going there for a month. Yeah.
I love that so much. But what you're talking about, though, Dee, is knowing yourself, and it's like giving yourself permission. Like, you changed your own expectation around winters in Van. Like, you changed your own expectation, where instead of the suck it up, this is how it is. And your life has changed too, right? Because you've got a child who's now a man. So not exactly in the same situation. It would be harder to do that. But the bottom line is, you don't have to suffer. And as my friend Danielle LaPorte would tell you, that you can want what you want with all your heart. And then move heaven and earth to make it happen. Right. Then what are you willing to do to make it happen? But that always struck me years ago when you first said that, and I don't even know where I read it, whatever, but it so spoke to how I wanted what I wanted. Right. Like, with all of myself, and that it was like permission to do it. Not, you don't have to just do it a little bit. And again, those are also, when you talk about self-care, honoring what you want with all your heart is a form of self-care as well, don't you think?
100%. Yeah. You give me one more assignment. I think the question was about a continuous boundary challenge. I just like to get it right. I'm such a good little student, aren't I? Okay.
You are.
I no longer try and change a particular relative. This is the most powerful spiritual phrase I have right now, is this. Okay. That's it. So this person I love has been saying, why aren't we doing Christmas together? And what are we doing for Christmas? And Christmas. And I ain't even into Christmas. I don't need the stuff. I don't want the stuff. I want to simplify Christmas. But I go, okay, fight in my heart. I go, why do you come and visit for Christmas? And person says, I don't like to fly during the holidays.
Okay.
Because years ago, we're talking 20 years ago, difficult time traveling through the holidays. So I know I could be wrong, but this is pretty whacked. I could have given a kind of cajoling therapeutic 5 steps questions like happened a long time ago. It's just one day. You really love Christmas, might not see each other for a while. You can do it. And I really thought, I'm really great at enthusiasm and convince you can do it. And I just said, okay. That was it. They're a grown up. I'm a grown up.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. And sometimes, Dee, I love that so much because here's the thing. Sometimes, like when we're rah-rahing with someone who says, but I don't really like to travel that time of year, when we're like, making it okay, finding the way, because we're like, they said they want to be together for Christmas.
Right.
So I'm going to try to remove all the obstacles that I can so that thing that they said they wanted. A lot of times though, and I learned this actually, Janie Cole, my mother actually taught me this about Victor, where she's like, you come at everything, Terri, like everyone is like you. Because I'll be like, I don't understand Vic. He says we're going to go to, he wants to check out Best Buy, or whatever we're doing. I was like, so I'll always say, well, we don't call to see if it's open. And then we should do it in the most efficient manner. We should stop here first and then here and then go there because it's on the way. And like I'm micromanaging the shit out of whatever. And she's like, Terri, do you ever think that Vic works alone in a studio all day and maybe just needs to get the hell out of the studio and wants to have an adventure with you and just wants you to get in the truck with him and just can go somewhere? It's not about being the most efficient. Your whole thing is it optimal? You know what is for him is like getting the hell out of the studio, maybe.
Yeah.
And I was like, and it's almost like your person of 20 years might be enough for them to be like, that'd be great if we could do that. You say, great. Yeah. That might be for them. You know what I mean?
And person of 20 years said, well, can I come earlier? Like not at Christmas. Can I come the first 2 weeks of December? Or can I come after? And it's like, no, because I'm actually taking time off this holiday for like nourishment and friends and family and all the things. And if I bend because you don't want to get on the plane because it's something 20 years ago, if I play at that level of kooky pants, it totally throws my life off kilter. And I go through my thing because heart-centered and neurotic all in one day. I go through my thing and think, am I closed? Am I not being loving? Am I being a hypocrite? Am I off brand? And it's like, no, my job is to create conditions of healing for myself.
Yes.
And I've been like super loving and accommodating. Just not going to work this time. Feels great.
So good.
You're all invited for Christmas. Now I got room. Yeah.
But it's like putting down, like part of that story that you shared and the ability to say, okay, and see this as a spiritual practice, because I really honestly think that it is. And from a therapeutic standpoint, it's really healthy, right? It's really healthy to say, okay, I respect that. I understand that you don't want to travel on Christmas and it doesn't work for me to. So let's think about February. Let's think about March. Let's whatever. But again, someone else, like what we're really talking about is not being a high functioning codependent, is not over accommodating or auto accommodating as we can do with people, right? Where you just go, oh, it's not working. How can I just twist myself up into a pretzel so that it does work? In the evolution of having boundaries, of being healthier, of doing the spiritual work, working has changed. It no longer, right? It no longer no conflict, right?
Yes. Also, I don't want the karma that can come from convincing somebody of something. Like, what if this person got on the plane, had a terrible experience, had a panic attack because wigged out? I think, no. Everything got to be everybody else's full, wholehearted choice. So, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes
it's
it convince you, but otherwise, no.
It doesn't take a lot to convince me.
I know.
To come see you, no matter where you are. I always want to. I can't wait. I'm going to sooner than later. I'm going to be seeing you. I can't wait. Anyway, so I'm super psyched that you came and shared your wisdom with us. And is there anything else about boundaries that you want to say for you? Because you've changed so much, Dee, in the past 15 years. Like
one would hope.
You really, I know, but you know what, dude, truthfully, it doesn't always happen. You know what I mean? It really doesn't. I mean, in our group of friends, I feel like it really has because most people are intentionally doing it. But for you, what is the biggest aha or the biggest shift? And it doesn't have to be related to boundaries. It could just be life.
Well, my whole world right now is about the nervous system. And my biggest shift has been, it came in two layers. Like, I have to attend to my nervous system to survive. And then I got out of survival mode. And now it's, look, we're living in various types of battlegrounds, from like plastic interrupting, our hormones, to the Middle East, to all sorts of things. And it just have been really clear, like, it's not a luxury anymore. Doing all the things to regulate isn't like, I'll have the extra thing with the smoothie, or I'm going to make some time for vacation. It's like essential. And if I want to stay sane and be of service, nervous system. Yeah.
And be well. And how has that, focusing on your nervous system, how has that impacted your physical health?
Oh, physical, complete healing, like big difference. I sleep through the night. The brain fog is gone. I can remember your name. I don't have joint inflammation. I haven't had a lung respiratory incident in about a year and a half. I was in an old place with mold. I had to escape. I feel strong. I feel like, my spine is straight. I have life force. I have prana. I get up and I'm rested. Yeah, that's amazing. And I am switching to the like spiritual, psychological, way less triggerable. I mean, everything we've discussed right now is evidence of that. It's like, if I can be in okay mode with someone who is my historical button pusher, I am making progress. Yeah. And I noticed it lately with my man, with Will, where he came up to me, because, been together long enough where he's got the language now. He came up to me and said, I'm having a moment, and this is really part of my neurotic stuff, and I don't want you to try and fix it. I was like, oh, that is some self-awareness and sexiness. And I said, it's the word again. I just said, okay. And I didn't. And he was being kooky. And I just like, all right, if you want to be weird about the food, okay.
I'll let you be weird. People are asking, what else are you doing for your nervous system?
What am I doing for my nervous system? I have a daily meditation practice, and if I don't do it, I'm compassionate, but I do something every day that's contemplative. Here's a really simple thing. Usually in the morning, before I get out of bed, I put my right hand on my belly. It's like you tuck your thumb into your belly button. I put my left hand on my heart, and I will change the phrase. Sometimes I'll say, baby Danielle, shadow self, inner child, my dear wounds, what do you need from me today? What do you need from me today? And whatever the answer is, it is nervous system nourishing. So I'll often hear like, can we go for a walk today? I need sleep. I'd love a nap. Call so-and-so because they make you laugh. Do a little bit of yoga. We love that Shavasana thing. What? All simple. The simple stuff is the stuff that you go to in panic during crisis. That simple stuff regulates, and it really should be part of the daily. Hot, cold. And for me, I'm not like a Wim Hofer. It's just simple cold water on my face and my neck in the morning. Huge difference. Seeing the connection between my relationships and my nervous system, and just like really honoring that.
Yeah.
Dance, yoga, crying without criticism. So I've been crying a lot these last couple of weeks, just, the grief of the world. And just like, there's nothing wrong with me when I'm crying. It's just like, I'm getting it out. So I look at emotional release with more respect than I used to.
Right.
Yeah.
That was super duper helpful. I love you. I so appreciate that you came to share your beautiful wisdom with us at our party. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys know where to find Danielle, and we'll include all of the information in the replay info. But thank you, my friend.
I love you. All right. Love to everybody. Bye.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right, people. How amazing. We cannot leave yet. We need to just talk about how amazing she is. She's such a good friend. So awesome. So you guys, this has been, I hope that you have loved this. The big announcement that was coming at the end of this is that we have opened up Boundary Bootcamp for self-study. So instead of packing all of the material into 8 weeks, you can now really, truly go at your own pace. And we made this change because of your feedback, because of what people asked for. And I know a lot of alumni are here because they're always so vocal and so great. Linda, I know, is here. She said, I took the Boundary Bootcamp course. It changed my life. Denise said, I'm doing Boundary Bootcamp now. So excited for other people to be joining in, which people already are. So what you have and what is different is there's more support, there's more integration time, and really more success because we're doing it over a longer period of time. So you're still getting the calls with me, but it's over months of time rather than just weeks being crammed in. And a lot of people, what do you get when you sign up? First of all, it's instant access. No, it's not easy. You're right. Not easy work, but it is so worth it. Linda, thank you so much. Excellent. Best course I ever purchased, said Angela. Thank you for sharing so much and being a great light. Alumni here, said Debbie, best thing I ever did for myself. Amazing. So you guys, if you're thinking about it, terricole.com/BB. I would love to walk you through it. This is literally my favorite course to teach. And if you sign up right now, you get instant access to the materials so you can start right away. You get 7 recorded calls, 1 for each module. So it's basically where I talk about the module specific information. You can learn from questions that were already answered, by your peers. You also get the private community, so you can get your specific questions answered. You can stay inspired. You can stay on course, basically. So we're doing live calls as well. And you also get a crap ton of bonuses. So we're also doing brand new live support package. So for the alumni who want to come back, you can do that as well, where you get to hop on a live call every 2 weeks for 8 months. So there's 16 live calls. You'll get 8 live calls with group coaching with me to get all your questions answered. And then you get 8 group accountability calls with Coach Sarah to basically help you stay on your focus when it comes to boundaries. So it's full pay is $997 or easy payment 12 plan of $97. That's what Boundary Bootcamp is going for. You guys can get all the information, terricole.com/BB if you want it. Obviously, I'm not going to take all of this time. I want to take a couple of questions from the chat before we go. I know I thought I was going to end at 9, so I'm going to go a few minutes over for those. Just check it out. If you're interested in Boundary Bootcamp, go to terricole.com/BB. And I want to answer Ayanda's question. My frustration, why won't my 80-year-old mother understand I'm not here because she birthed me 52 years ago? Well, I understand the frustration with that so much. So basically, how do you set boundaries with your 80-year-old mother? Difficultly. It can be difficult, and part of it is just trying to be patient and step back, right? Not letting her get to you to the best of your ability. Banana said, oh my God, I'm so excited. BB is the best course on boundaries I've ever taken. Yes. Alumni here said, Becca, thank you. Right on. I love it. Linda said, how do I release the fear of trying to date again? Not sure if I want to. Well, part of it is take your time. You know, it's like, and see how you feel. Like either get on the apps or start meeting people and see how you feel in your body, and then journal. What part of you is ambivalent? What part of you is like, I'm not sure, and see what comes up. If you just freestyle journal why you're afraid, or what is it that you're trying to avoid by not dating? Because there's definitely a part of you that wants to, you know? All right. Ravathe said, Terri, are the boot camp calls live or pre-recorded from the previous BB? They're both. You get access to pre-recorded calls with great content, and you also have live calls with me and with Coach Sarah. So there's actually a total of, when you purchase Boundary Bootcamp now, there's a total of 16 live calls, which is kind of amazing. So we're basically doing it over 8 months, where you'll get a live call with me once a month and a live call with Coach Sarah once a month to keep you on course. So it's both. And this is basically why we changed it this way, you guys, is because this is what you guys asked for us to do. Where does it begin? I hope I haven't missed anything. No, you haven't, because it's basically self-study. So it's starting right now. We just opened it today. So it's basically starting right now. And I think we had a few people sign up before this, but we just put the landing page up. So you're in great company wherever you are. Go to terricole.com/BB. Someone said, I've taken Healing the Mother Wound course, and Boundary Bootcamp is life-changing. It was for me. Highly recommend. Oh, excellent. No, you haven't missed anything. So if you want to do it, do it. All right. Next question. How do you set boundaries when your partner does not see he needs to change too? Interesting. I think that's a great question. And what I'm going to say is I want you to focus on your side of the street, because you can change so much, even if the other person is not sort of participating right now. You still can change so much for yourself and really understand your own boundary stuff. So I would say start there, become an expert on boundaries. And as you change the dance, your partner is going to have to change. They don't have to admit that they need to change. Does that make sense? But I feel like they can't stay the same. I can tell you that much. All right, you guys, I'm going to do 2 more questions. Gaynell said, how do you not crumble and stick to your new boundaries with family? Oh, this is the hardest one. We were talking about it, but I think taking that time, step back, breathe, right? Really get clear about who are the people in your family in particular who sort of trigger you to cave in, and then make a plan that when you're talking to them, that you'll step back, or maybe you'll do it more over email than talking. Like, part of it is we have to be proactive, which of course is what I teach you to do in the course and in the book and in this book and on all the books, is being proactive. There's a whole 4-step process that we go through so that you're not just trying to set boundaries cold, because that can be really, really hard. It's taking into consideration who the person is, how they are, basically. And that will impact how you approach them. Okay, so let's see. So Samantha asked, how do you ensure to honor each category of your personal values in a season? Oh yeah, that was a great question from the Christine Gutierrez. I struggle with wanting to keep track of every single category in each season and end up feeling overwhelmed and burnt out. Samantha, I wouldn't even get I would start with the basics of your values. What are the most important things to you right now? Right? Start with that. Don't worry about switching them per season, because when they start to change, you're going to know. So what is it that you want to focus on for yourself? That's an internal boundary that you want to look at. Christine was sharing, right? In this season of her life, her focus is her family. Amazing. She's still working. She's still writing her next book. She's still doing what she's doing, but her main focus, and she shared with us how she made her decision-making process, was based on Mar de Luz, her baby, and how was that going to impact her time with her, All right, Karen said, what do you say? What do you do or say when your stepmom's boundary is your brother and mom not coming to your dad's funeral? That's not a boundary, though. That's just control. So I don't know. Is she the boss of everyone? If she's throwing it, I guess maybe she does have a right. It isn't right, though, as we know, and it's mean. So you can either, I mean, is she going to create a scene if they come anyway? It's incorrect. You know, Karen, like you don't need to be a therapist to know that that's just bullshit. And that's just punishing behavior. I'm just mad. I just want to be mad, you know, and that's mean. But my feeling is if she's hosting it, you know, then perhaps they don't come. I don't know what the answer is, other than I can only tell you conclusively that is not a boundary. That's it. That is not a boundary. That's just control, you know? All right, you guys, I just want to end by saying thank you for welcoming this book baby into your hearts and into the world. If you haven't gotten it, please do. It's really good. I'm super proud of it. It took a lot, but it's really worth it. It took a village. Trust me. You can ask Tracy who it took. You can ask Joyce what it took, but it took a lot of work, and I love it so much. And I hope that you guys do too. So you can get that at boundarybossworkbook.com and still get all the bonuses with that. And I would love you guys to join Boundary Bootcamp. Like, I'm super excited that we're doing it. I took your info. It's a self-study, but I'm going to be with you every step of the way. So terricole.com/BB. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You guys are my why, that I do everything that I do. So just know that everything I create for you is super out of my devotion to your healing, to the life that I know that you can have, to the way that you want to feel. And I am super committed to you getting those things in this life, because I firmly believe that you can. So just know, deep bow of gratitude to each and every one of you, whether you're here live or whether you're watching this after the fact. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sending so much love to all of you. I appreciate you so very